The plot structure to the television series Law and Order SVU generally goes something like this. In the beginning of the show, there is a rapist and or pedophile who has committed some sort of crime, normally involving rape or pedophilia, if they are indeed a rapist and or pedophile. Although sometimes it's just murder or something. See, that's odd. It's called Law and Order SVU, the whole point being that they are the Special Victims Unit of New York, and that as the Special Victims Unit of New York, they investigate crimes, generally sex crimes or crimes involving children. However, if they are wrongfully called to the scene and there is a murder, they will continue to investigate, even though they're not homicide detectives, because there's very little logic to do with the show. Anyway, there's a rapist and or pedophile who's committed a crime. During the first half of the show, around the first half of the show, they find this rapist. They attempt to find out who this person is, then to make an arrest. In the process, they generally do something that involves the person's civil liberties in some way. However, they create what could be, or might not be, a justification for this violation. And so, it becomes in the beginning a debate as to was it justified, was it not justified? In the end, it's left unclear, murky, like the characters. Then, and this is the really crucial part to explaining the structure of Law and Order SVU, then the writers think up a possible excuse, a possible reason as to why the person may or may not be responsible for their actions. This is normally some sort of scientific explanation, or pseudo-scientific explanation. It depends. Now, this is normally introduced into the plot of the show in a very abrupt and clearly expository way. Normally, someone will probably just walk up to a person and tell them, "Did you know?" and then go on for 5 minutes about this, whatever this may be as it relates to the case. Then, Dr. Blonde normally said, and Dr. Blonde is, I believe, ADA Casey Novak. That's what I call her. I dislike her a lot, the character. You can tell I watch this show, even though it sucks. And I don't normally do that sort of thing. In any case, then she says, "I'm going to prosecute anyway." Then for the next 30 minutes, the characters, all of the characters who are involved in the show, even those who aren't involved in the prosecution at all, like just the detectives sitting around with their coffee, B.D. Wong, the detective, FBI, they all sit around and spend the next 30 minutes talking about whether or not this applies and debating the made-up political issue behind it until they finally come to a conclusion and something unexpected happens at the end. Yeah. It's almost as bad as Law and Order, the regular show, where what happens is for the first half of the show, they've been trying to find whoever committed some sort of homicide. Then they find out the person gets put on trial for their crime. They always plead insanity. Did you know that on Law and Order, about, I'd say 85% of the time, the defendant pleads insanity? Yeah. Again, coming up with some sort of novel defense. Or if they're not pleading insanity, then they're saying it's like manslaughter because it was under extreme emotional duress, whatever. Then, for the next 30 minutes, the person comes up with a novel way of pleading insanity, and they're depicted as being clearly either making it up or their defense attorney and or their defense attorney is pure evil. And so Jack, Where's My Medication McCoy, attempts to prove murder is murder, even if the person is clearly insane, which they are not. I can't do a good Sam Waterston impression. But he's not ADA anymore, so I wonder what's going to happen on the season premiere of Law and Order, 2-hour special event. Don't miss it on NBC. Now, as long as we're on the subject of police procedurals, there are a couple more shows I'd like to talk about. Cold Case is a TV show about a group of detectives who do absolutely nothing but investigate cold cases. That is, cases which have been inactive for a very, very long period of time. although normally they just decide to open these cases again for no reason, and they can solve them. Their method of solving generally involves walking around to every single person who was involved in the original case, which we find out through the use of very badly orchestrated flashbacks involving a lot of really bad writing and bad period music. Then they go around and they find each of these people who's involved, and they ask them what happened. And then the people involved tell them. And that is the entire plot, the entire summation of what happens in the show. And eventually they find out who did the thing, whatever it is. Yeah, I know, it's a really bad show. And have you ever seen CSI? Do you know what sucks about CSI? It makes no sense, okay? First off, I'm not even complaining about how far-fetched all of the science involved is, how improbable everything is, because that I can suspend my disbelief if I want to. Sometimes I feel like it, sometimes I don't, but I can still do it. I can admit that the audience is supposed to do it, but I can't understand is the basic plot of the show. So they're the CSI unit in Las Vegas, Nevada, right? They do CSI work. Essentially, they do forensic work, right? So why do they do anything involved with solving the case? That's not the way CSI works. What they're supposed to do is just analyze stuff and come up with stuff, and that's it. Okay? It's like, suddenly, what's his name? Gil Grissom, he's on the case, and he's saying, well, we need to look at everything, and we need to examine all of the evidence, and they examine all the evidence. Okay, then they go, now let's see, what does this mean? This means so-and-so did it. And they get Detective Brass, they say, you, go arrest this person. And Brass says, okay, that's all. And Gil says, wait a minute, no, there is more evidence. He clearly couldn't have done it. And so he calls up all of his CSI buddies and all of the people, different CSI guys, and they come and they say, well, who do you think did it? Well, this evidence points to this person. So then they go suddenly make the arrest themselves. It makes no sense. It's like they're super CSI people, or almost like they're super detectives who can do all the forensic work themselves, but they're still essentially detectives because they're involved. Here's what makes no sense. What makes no sense. When, what's-his-name, Detective Brass is interviewing people, or not even, yes, interviewing people and suspects, Gil Grissom is always there. Tell me, what police station, what police department, anywhere, in any country, even where you live, let alone Las Vegas, organization, police department, do you know where the head of the forensics department is present during interrogations? The answer is none, because it's a stupid premise. The premise that somehow you have this super CSI team that solves crimes. And that's the only reason I don't like CSI. Well, it's one of the only reasons I don't like CSI. Otherwise, it's not a really bad show. Oh, also NCIS, have you ever seen that show? I've had the misfortune of seeing it a couple of times. The problem there is that they try to be cute and funny, all of the characters, and it sucks because they can't do it. So it just looks crap. Looks crap? Looks like crap. Well, yes. Also, here's the thing. Law & Order Criminal Intent, and I actually like that show. I can't really come up with much bad stuff to say about it, except for the fact, well, no, I'm not going to complain about it, because I think it's the best one. See, it's interesting, I sometimes get around, well, not sometimes, I watch Law & Order Criminal Intent a lot. I watch the other Law & Orders a lot. I get around to watching quite a few police procedurals, and I hate most of them. And I don't normally do this thing where I watch shows that I hate. That's one of the only things I ever watch. Anyway, this message, this summary of all of the crappy police procedurals that there are on NBC has been brought to you by, and yes, I am pointing at you. Don't take it as a term of offense, take it as a term of endearment. It's been brought to you by Tyler DeMallion. I have been talking for 10 minutes. Although I might still have some time left. Although I'm not going to cover anything else. Maybe another time, if you like this style of whatever I'm doing here, I could talk about some other type of TV show or movie if you're interested. Oh, also, the music on Law & Order sucks. Yes. And that's about it. Also, you may have been wondering if I'm in my pajamas. Again, the answer is yes, and that was very perceptive of you. However, I must tell you that unlike yesterday, unlike my other video I made from my pajamas, it is not very early in the morning. It is, in fact, around 2 in the morning. Yes, so it is early in the morning. See, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But as you can see, I'm much more alert right now than I was in that other video. However, I'm far less lucid. Thank you and good night. Yes.